All right, guys, welcome to this really dope episode of head-to-head battles. We're doing the top 10 cards for the side deck in the 2020 MR5 April 2020 format. All right. So another table talk video. So if you want to just tap away and just listen for your own information, you can. So let me get a little sip of courage juice. It's hard being behind the camera, in front of the camera. I'm sorry. So the 2020 format is basically MR3 version 2, MR3 with links. You don't need link monsters or link arrows to summon your XCs or synchros or fusion monsters into the main monster zone. What does that mean? It means the meta will shift severely, okay? Salads didn't get hit in the most recent ban list, so they're still gonna be widely played, and they are very link heavy. But there are a lot of new decks that are coming back that are very synchro or XCs heavy. Rank 4 turbos, rank 8 turbos, rank whatever turbos, synchro spamming with the new addition of Needle Fiber and Union Carrier. And so with all that being said, these are what I feel like would be the top 10 best cards in your side deck for the April 2020 format. So let's get started right away. All right, guys, so the first card on the list of the top 10 side deck cards for the 2020 April format is Dark Ruler No More. Why is this card so good? Well, first of all, now that everyone's gonna be spamming monsters, just spewing monsters onto the board, right? And you have to deal with a bunch of monster effects, Borlo, Savage Dragon, Appaloosas, and all the shenanigans. It's not a word. So what Dark Ruler No More says is turn off all the monsters that are face up on your opponent's side of the field. And your opponent can't activate monster effects in response to this card. So basically, they just have a bunch of beaters on the board, and if you're playing that dope, dank, Blue Eyes OTK deck, then it doesn't matter what they play. Dark Ruler No More is definitely a really good going second card. I know a lot of decks these days will opt to go first. So if you are playing a going second OTK deck, then Dark Ruler No More is a literal no-brainer. And you're not gonna win the dice roll every time either, right? So this card is definitely bananas in your side deck, all right? So number 2 on this list is Nibiru and or Sphere Mode. So the reason these two cards are in the number 2 slot is because Nibiru and Sphere Mode are two very different things, right? Firstly, Nibiru, and I'll have everything on the screen, right? So Nibiru says that if your opponent summons 5 times or more, you can activate this card, and you're basically wiping their field to essentially give them this huge Nibiru token. And then on top of that, you give yourself the Nibiru, right? So going second, this card is good, but you're not guaranteed to draw this card. So let's say you're going second and your opponent finishes and you didn't have a Nibiru in hand. But let's say Nibiru was the 6th card off the top. So now you have a brick in your hand, okay? They have a full board and there's nothing you can do about it, right? So Nibiru is good if it's in your hand, right? So the reason Sphere Mode, in my opinion, could be better than Nibiru is that even as a 6th card, it's a good card, right? Because you can still use Sphere Mode on your opponent's board, even if you drew it as your 6th card and you didn't have it in hand, right? Like it's a lifesaver as a 6th card. Nibiru, you just do not want to even see as your 6th card because it's useless. It's a brick in hand. It's a brick in hand. But again, you have to realize a lot of decks might end on 2 monsters, right? And that's where Lava Golem also comes in really handy. But these are all like number 2 slots. But in my opinion, I think in this upcoming format, Sphere Mode will be a lot stronger than Nibiru, strictly due to the fact that if you draw it as your 6th card, it's not a brick, okay? The next card on my list is kind of expensive. We're talking about Lightning Storm. So Lightning Storm is about $120 card. So for a place that you're looking at, math, $360 to $400 almost. So Lightning Storm is basically a Harpy's Feather Duster or a Raigeki, right? And it's good for obvious reasons because one card has utility for both front row decks and back row decks. But at the same time, it's a really expensive card, and Twin Twisters can, maybe not be as good. But if I had the option to go, on more of a budget, it'd be more of like a Twin Twisters evenly matched type of deal. See, the bad part about that is you need to take up 6 slots in your side deck as opposed to just 3 with Lightning Storm, right? The next card on my list, and it didn't get hit on the ban list, is Super Poly. So why is Super Poly so good? So one, it's very interactive, right? You can use it on your opponent's turn, even if you go first. And going second is really easy to break boards. So now that Invoke Shaddolls is such a rampant deck in today's meta, if you have your own window, if you use a slot in your extra deck for window, you can actually Super Poly into your own window, locking your opponent out for comboing off for the rest of their turn, right? And Super Poly is relatively cheap now with its multiple reprints, and they're really easy to get. Especially if you've bought in a playset of Dual Devastators, you have a playset of Ultra Super Polys, right? So the one downside of Super Poly is, well, now it's an upside, right? So if you have a Predaplant, Verta, Anaconda, Super Poly is searchable, so you can always search it going first to use it going second on your opponent's turn, and it's still good having it in your hand going second, right? So I think Super Poly is definitely a good addition to your side deck for this upcoming 2020 April format, okay guys? Next on my list, and this is kind of spicy, is D-Barrier. So we're bringing D-Barrier back. So what does D-Barrier do? So if you activate D-Barrier, you can call a type of monster, right? So let's say you're playing Invoke Shaddolls, and you know they're very fusion heavy, right? You flip over D-Barrier and you call fusions, and just watch the look on your opponent's face. Just watch it, okay? Just watch it. Just you sit there, watch the look on your opponent's face. So basically, if you call fusions, what D-Barrier does is your opponent can't summon fusion monsters nor activate fusion monster effects that are already on field, right? And even if you shotgun this card, it's still a blowout card because your opponent playing Invoke Shaddolls, I mean, unless they're running like a small Nightmare package in the extra deck, can't really get rid of this card that early, right? And if they don't have the right cards, they just can't get rid of it, period. So D-Barrier is definitely a good blowout card going first if you know what you're playing against. And you know, we'll have another video up after this one about the top meta decks, but I feel like D-Barrier is definitely a blowout card in this MR5 in the 2020 MR5 format, guys. Next is Evenly Matched. So Evenly Matched is one of those cards where it's really good against back row decks and even front row decks, right? So let's say you're going first deck and you lost a dice roll, but you have an Evenly Matched in your hand. So what you would end up doing is just draw, enter battle phase, and battle phase Evenly Matched, and then set up your own board, right? And as you set up your own board, you know, if it's a good enough deck, as you're setting up, you're popping stuff on your opponent's side of the board or bouncing things back to hand. So this is where Evenly Matched comes in and like really clutch. And you can use Evenly Matched, and let's say it gets negated and you have another Evenly Matched, you can just straight up slap it down on the field right away. All right, guys. So Evenly Matched is coming down in price. Last time I checked, it was a $35 card. I checked right before recording this video, and it was about $29 for the dual powered version. So make sure you pick up your copies before they spike back up in price. Because after people watch this video, they're gonna be like, oh my God, Susu, he knows what he's talking about. Let's go buy out Evenly Matched. Psych, that's not gonna happen. Make sure you subscribe, like, and follow, by the way. I keep forgetting to say that. It's not like inherent to me right now, but like, yeah, being a Yugi tuber or you're a YouTuber in general, it's just kind of difficult because it's like things you need to whatever. Anyways, Denko Sekka. So if you are a spam deck, right? Let's say you just spit monsters out like you're spitting. What Denko Sekka is, first of all, you have to commit a normal summon to Denko Sekka. But most decent decks don't really need to commit a normal summon. So if Denko Sekka could be your only normal summon, then going first is the blowout card, right? So let's say you go first, you set up a board, you normal Denko Sekka, and you pass turn, right? And now your opponent can't set spell or trap cards or activate already set spell or trap cards. So a lot of monster heavy decks are always, really dislike playing against back row heavy decks. Because if you are, let's say you're playing Invoke Shaddolls, right? And then you're going up against Altergeist, and let's say you have a Denko Sekka, and you didn't need to commit your normal summon, your Altergeist literally can't play, right? Because they literally have to set their cards. They can't really do much, and it's definitely a blowout card if you're up against a back row heavy deck, and you get to go first, right? All right, so the next card on the list is Anti-Spell Fragrance, okay? Now, as we know, spell cards are a little bit faster than trap cards, right? Because for trap cards, you need to set and wait until the next turn to activate it. But spell cards, you can activate straight from the hand. So this is where Anti-Spell Fragrance is a really good going first card in the side deck for a monster heavy deck, right? What Anti-Spell Fragrance does is each player must set their spell cards and they can't activate it until their next turn. The reason to make this card so good is, if it's not a quick play, they have to wait until turn 4 to activate it, right? Because let's say you went first, right? So they have to wait till turn 4 to activate their spell cards. But by turn 3, you're already OTKing them with that massive board you already set up. So basically, Anti-Spell Fragrance, if you get to go first, is a dope card. So, and if you're already going up against a very back row heavy deck, Anti-Spell Fragrance, is a blowout card in general. I mean, Sky Strikers isn't really in the format right now that Engaged is banned, but Widow Waker's back to 2. But regardless, Sky Strikers isn't going to really be making a resurgence anytime soon. But there are a lot of other decks that still need to play important spells from the hand going first or second. Okay, guys. Anti-spell fragrance is really cheap, and again, it is a dual devastator staple that you can get for like relatively cheap, you know what I mean? Number 9 on my list is DD Crow. So why is DD Crow good? And why is Called by the Grave not in here? Because I feel like Called by the Grave should be a main deck card and not really a side deck card. So what DD Crow basically does is, let's say your opponent is playing Sky Strikers. They're probably not, but let's say they are. It's the easiest example. What they would do is, you know, the Ray would hit the graveyard. And before they can tag out, you would chain DD Crow to ban their Ray so they can't make their Link 1 plays. You know, that Link 1 recursion. You know, you're essentially shutting off that play. And a lot of cards right now do, like, the graveyard is basically the board. Like, a lot of decks, especially zombies, their board is in their graveyard. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, but you get what I'm saying, okay? And DD Crow can help you banish those important pieces, but don't banish the Mizuki, because I still think they can activate Mizuki even if you banish it with DD Crow. I'm pretty sure they can still get the Mizuki effect, because it doesn't negate. That's why you're Called by the Grave in the main, right? Because then you have 2 chances to banish, and only 1 chance to negate. Now, the last, number 10, there's 2, because these cards are still, they both do generally the same thing, but one is a little bit better than the other, and it's Soul Drain and or Neko Valley. I feel like Soul Drain is a better card because not only does it stop cards from the graveyard, it also stops cards from the banished pile. So, and I know Thunders don't exist anymore, but Invoke Shaddolls, when banished, do things. And basically Soul Drain will stop that. And Soul Drain will literally shut out Invoke Shaddolls. You know, I should make like a how to beat Invoke Shaddolls video because I feel like I already did. You know what I'm saying? If you ever played Gen at regionals and her singles only deck, yo, watch this video. This is how you beat him, okay? So, Neko Valley basically only shuts off the graveyard. It doesn't shut the graveyard off, but it stops things from moving in and out the graveyard, right? But I think Soul Drain is the better option. So I personally will be running Soul Drain, okay? So now we have top 3 honorary mentions, okay? The first one being Phantasme. So Phantasme used to be a staple side or a staple main. But now that we're going into more of a Synchro Xyz Fusion era, now that we're like kind of turning time backwards, like, hey Yugi, thanks for the Time Wizard. You know, you don't really need to run Phantasme. And even if you don't have it, there are so many more cards that came out that kind of power crept Phantasme anyways. So, you know, Phantasme has kind of bumped down to an honorary mention, okay? Number 2 on our honorary mentions, Droll and Lockbird. So Droll and Lockbird used to be like $12 a copy for the common because of freaking Spirals, okay? Spirals and Magician's Soul. But now that Master Plan is gone, Magician's Souls came down $40 and ripped Spirals, okay? So Droll and Lockbird is still good, but it's not the best. I don't think it deserves a main spot in the side deck, only because Droll and Lockbird like skyrocketed in price because of Spirals, but just crashed because Spirals crashed, right? So it's one of those cards that really follows the format and follows the meta. And right now, as you can see from the market itself, the Droll and Lockbird isn't as prevalent as it once was, but it's still good against decks that search multiple times, right? So that's why it is getting my number 2 spot in honorary mentions. Now, in my finals honorary mention slot. Now, this is gonna sound crazy, okay? Like, you're gonna be like, Susu, what the fuck? What are you talking about? Grand Horn of Heaven, okay? And you're like, what is that? I've never heard that card in my life. So what does Grand Horn of Heaven do? Let me read it for you. It says, during your opponent's main phase, when they would special summon a monster or monsters, negate the summon, okay? And if you do, destroy that monster, then your opponent draws 1 card, then end the main phase. So why is that so important, okay? So let's just say your opponent special summons anything, like they're getting the combo started, like, you know, they normal summon Alistair and they got the invocation, and they use invocation to make whatever, okay? Grand Horn of Heaven. So you Grand Horn of Heaven, right? So you destroy that monster, your opponent gets to draw 1 card, and then you end their main phase. That is insane. Like, you can just straight up end their main phase, and now they've already committed their normal summon, right? And you've destroyed their special summon, which they needed to extend plays with. And they can't like mill cards off the top, or like let's say they don't have any more plays that they can make. They literally are in main phase 2. They're gonna set 1 and pass turn over to you, right? Then you use like Twin Twister or like Mystical Space Typhoon if you're actually using it in 2020, which you're probably not going to be. Get rid of their back row, and it's an empty board. And in 2020, OT King on an empty board with any deck is just so freaking simple, guys. All right, so that was my final spice. For my honorary mentions, I'm definitely not gonna play in the main side. This is like one of those funny cards, but like it's still really freaking good, alright? So guys, if you liked this video, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Let's try to get this video to 1 million likes, okay? 1 million likes. And then make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. Hit that notification bell and use our TCG Player affiliate link code down in the description below. And if you like videos like this, make sure you comment down below. Hey Susu, I like your face, man. I want more videos like this, man. You know, maybe I'll do a whole video talking like Joey Wheeler if this gets 5,000 likes. So imagine if I did a whole video like the top 10 cards of my style. No, I can't even do it. Can't even do it. This is This is Susu from HeadtoHead Battles signing out.